Today, I have for you my best game in the legendary tier Colombo, at least my best game so far. I think the ship may receive a nerf sometime in the near future, though, and you might understand why after you see the result of this one, because it is a doozy. So strap yourselves in. We're going to call the shots as they happen, but before we start doing that, I should show you my commander build. It's a bit of a weird build. At least I think some of you will think it's weird. We've got Iakino at the helm, and our two inspirations are Kondo, who of course buffs Battleship Concealment, and then Weeb Russian Lady, Azerlane Sovetsky Rosia, or whatever her name is. She also buffs Battleship Concealment, and she reduces the chance that you're going to be lit on fire. These two inspirations together combine into what I think is a bonus to your ability to tank. My concealment with this build is 12.3 kilometers by sea. That is potentially better than some cruisers in this game, and the fact that we can go unspotted at such a short distance means that we have better control over the engagements we choose to take, and we have the ability to disengage if it's necessary. Plus, the lower concealment at 12.3 kilometers means we know we're in the danger zone if we get spotted. For example, when we come around this island and we get spotted, we know there's a destroyer within 12.3 kilometers of us. That destroyer is the Shimakaze. We can see his torpedoes there in a widespread going toward our Khabarovsk. But the fact that we are spotted at 12.3, that gives us a better idea of where the Shima is, potentially helps us avoid torpedoes a little bit more. That's just one of the benefits of building into concealment on a battleship, especially if you can get the concealment to a ridiculous value like this. And then, of course, Colombo and the entire battleship line for the Italians have these rolling smokescreen generators, which follow you at full speed for about 30 or 40 seconds. I can't remember the duration. But they offer mobile concealment, and Colombo's smoke firing penalty is absolutely ridiculous. I can't remember the exact value, but it's less, I think, than 11 km. That probably ought to be nerfed. It doesn't really make sense that a battleship should be so stealthy when firing from inside of a smoke screen, but that's how it works, so we're going to try to use that to our advantage a little bit. In any case, Shimakaze has been chased out of the cap, so we are going to take a chance to enter it. If necessary, we can smoke up and we can turn around and disengage. That's one of the values of the Italian battleship smokescreen. Doesn't look like we're going to need to do that now, and we're going to take a shot at this Montana. Now, to be fair, this Montana is quite obviously AFK. We're going to end up getting a good deal of damage on him, so that sort of inflates our final number maybe a little bit. But this is still going to be a pretty good game. In any case, we notice the Alpha cap, or rather the Bravo cap, starting to turn red, which suggests the Shimakaze is inside of the cap. The real question is, can he spot us? I don't really know. We're on fire right now, so our detectability is 14.3 kilometers. And the Montana, who's AFK, is really the one responsible for spotting us. So we've got to take him out just to get his eyes off of us. I want to know where the Shima is, and it's going to be easier after we shoot at the Montana and hopefully lose our firing penalty. Of course we won't, because we get lit on fire. But the idea there was, if we can sink the Montana, we can ensure we're not being spotted by him. Once our detectability goes down to 12.3, we'll get a better idea of where Shimakaze is, because he's not inside the Bravo cap right now. The Bravo cap is being taken by a blue ship, and we're being farmed by this Brisbane out here, so we're going to shoot at him, because that's really annoying. Or maybe we're not going to shoot at him. We do end up going dark. That tells us Shimakaze does not have line of sight, which means we probably don't have to worry about torpedoes from him. We do, however, potentially have to worry about torpedoes from Schlieffen. He is somebody that we're not just going to push straight into. Instead, we're going to deploy the smoke. Schlieffen would otherwise be spotting us right now. He was spotting us momentarily with his sonar, but that has run out, so he doesn't have the ability to see us. Khabarovsk attempts to torpedo the Schlieffen. I think it's going to fail, though, which is a little unfortunate. And we're just going to take ourselves back in this direction. Now, we could push into the Schlieffen right now, but again, torpedoes. And if we did push into Schlieffen, we've got a Borgonia out there, and we've got that Brisbane. Borgonia could potentially get our broadside, and Brisbane can farm us down with HE. Plus, only 6 minutes have elapsed in this battle, so it's too early to push in. That's a mistake I see far too many battleship players making, is that they overextend too early in the game and it gets them killed. There is a time to push, and there is a time to disengage. This is the time to disengage, at least for the moment. Once we get a better idea of what might be going on here, then we can turn back in and perhaps proceed to pummel these enemies with our 16 guns. Schlieffen looks like he's going to turn broadside as he tries to get the cover of that island, which is a perfect opportunity to get a couple salvos on him as we kite away. Both the back guns and the front guns deal in excess of 10k to the Schlieffen, so that's like 22,000 damage in one salvo from two parts, the initial and the sequel. Both, of course, are very good and consistent. And that, I think, is down to the large number of main battery guns. We try taking another shot at the Schlieffen, but of course the island is going to block the shot. Now we have a choice to make. Do we push back in the way we were going? Do we go around this island, get into the center of the map, and try going toward Bravo? Well, the Shimakaze is very obviously in Bravo, so I don't think I want to push straight into him, and the Schlieffen is toast. We've only got Karl Johann out there, and he's headed in the opposite direction. So now it seems that the enemy team has abandoned the entire alpha flank, which means we might be able to push into it and obtain control of it. Note that we have 3 ships on the other side of the map in Charlie, 2 battleships and a cruiser. And if we can push into the enemy spawn near Alpha and then head toward the Bravo and Charlie caps, we may be able to trap the remainder of the enemy team in a crossfire with the battleships on the other side of the map. At least that's the idea. Whether it pans out or not is anybody's guess, but that's what we're going to try to do. Plus, I think we want to follow our Khabarovsk, who is pushing into the Bravo cap now toward the Shimakaze. I think it's actually a miracle that this Khabarovsk ends up surviving. He's got almost no HP left. But I'm going to chalk that up to his 50mm armor plate, and the Shimakaze either not shooting his guns at the Khabarovsk, or if he is shooting his guns, he's probably shooting HE and shattering off that 50mm plate. Khabarovsk is going to take out Shimakaze. It's going to take a few moments for that to happen, but once the Shima is gone and there is no torpedo threat emanating from the Bravo cap, number 1, our destroyer is going to secure that cap and gain a points income for our team. And number 2, there is no torpedo threat emanating from that direction, so theoretically we'll be able to push forward a little bit more. Shimakaze is fairly healthy. I was noticing that and thinking maybe I ought to push out a little bit more and try to get shots on the Shima, but I just didn't think it was so realistic at the time. And we do want to be careful on this approach. We don't want to overextend too quickly, find ourselves focused down, and then sunk. Even though the Colombo is very, very heavily armored, it's not going to stand up to the sustained focus of more than half of an entire team for a long duration. So we're taking this approach very cautiously and rather slowly. Shimakaze has almost no HP left, and he goes down. He takes the Khabarovsk with him, but it was at least an even trade. Now neither team has destroyers, and my team is more spread out than the enemy's. Or at least I'm in a good position compared to the rest of the enemy battleships. We are, in fact, developing a crossfire now with the friendly battleships on the other side of the map, which is a good thing. Something I would encourage battleship players to think more about. Too often I get requests from random battleship players on the comm wheel. They say, I need assistance, or whatever they say. And I think by that they mean they want me to play right next to them in the same grid square. No, you want your battleships to spread out as far as possible, so that the enemy has to angle against multiple sources of big gun firepower. And that way you create crossfires and get access to broadside. Speaking of which, the broadside of the Worcester over there, not a great result. I think we aimed too high, so that's mostly overpens. but we are up to 173,000 damage done, and there are plenty more hit points to take from the remainder of the enemy ships. We're using our smoke screen to conceal our approach, and even when we fire at this Brisbane, and by the way, get not good results, well, I guess our smoke screen runs out, but if we were still inside of the smoke screen, we wouldn't even be spotted, because for whatever reason, the Colombo and the entire Italian battleship line, except for, I think, Roma, gets a ridiculous smoke firing penalty. It's like less than 11 km, which makes absolutely no sense to me. I'm not going to complain too much about it, but I suspect if this ship gets nerfed, that might be one of the aspects that gets nerfed. In any case, our concealed approach to this push has got the enemy team not really focusing on us. The cruisers are shooting at us, to be fair, the Brisbane and the Worcester intermittently as we get spotted. And we are going to be perma-spotted now because we've taken ourselves within 10 km of the Borgonia. But Borgonia is very busy shooting at the friendly battleships at the Charlie Cap. He's trying to angle and kite away from them, but he's exposing broadside to us. Or at least he was. He's now angling a little bit, so we might as well try to get some shots on these cruisers, who we really have not been able to hit this entire battle. Especially this Brisbane, which, honestly, I've got to say GG's to this guy, because most Brisbanes die like that within the first 5 minutes. This guy lasted until the final 4 minutes before we were able to take him out, and none of our previous shots at him did anything really of significance. So GG to that Brisbane, honestly. In any case, we're up to over 200,000 damage done now, and that just leaves the Worcester and the Borgonia. Worcester is very annoying with his constant HE spam, and if he continues to light us on fire, then we're going to lose quite a lot of HP, actually. So we need to kill him. There he goes for our third kill of the game. We get the Confederate medal to go with our high caliber and first blood, and all that is left now is the Borgonia. And thanks to the Colombo, I don't know that any other battleship in this game really could have made this push quite so effectively. But the Colombo is basically an indestructible force of nature. If we're not constantly focused by HE spam and battleship caliber fire in our approach, then we don't lose a lot of HP. And by the time we reach the enemy team, we have so much HP to play with in this brawl against the Borgonia that he has absolutely no hope. We're just simply going to farm up the rest of the enemy team now and collect as much damage as humanly possible. Borgonia is not making that difficult for us either, despite the fact that he took one of our turrets away. Doesn't matter, though. 12 guns is enough to take him out for our fourth and final kill of the game. We end up with 251,000 damage done. To be fair, a good deal of that against the Montana. And our XP numbers are kind of off the charts. It's pretty impressive XP, if I do say so myself. 3,641. To be fair, inflated a little bit by how much HP we took off that Montana. But still, I think, a pretty good game, and we probably would have been around 200k even without that Montana being AFK. If he was playing, we don't really have any reason to suspect he wouldn't have given us broadside at some point. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this battle, and I hope you enjoy playing the Colombo, because I'm telling you, I smell a nerf incoming. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm not saying I want the thing to be nerfed. It probably should be, because I think it's a little too strong. But it probably will be. This thing is just a little bit too spicy, in my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.